Hey, this is Jason Morris here, and I'm with Frank Ammons. And Frank, what market are you in? Let's start out there.
I live in the Tampa area.
Okay, so you're down in Florida, man. So your market has been white hot the last couple of years, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like no inventory.
Yeah.
And so I know there's been a lot of agents that are in that same position as you. And then when we were texting before what we're going to talk about on the call, yeah, I tell you what, before we get started, man, do you prospect or anything? Do you call for sale owners or expires? Is that part of
Yeah,
your plan?
absolutely. I mean, full disclosure, Jason, I'm not sure if you only interview agent. I am not an agent, but I work with, I mean, that's basically all I work with is agents helping them, sell their deals that they can't sell. So that's what I want to
Yeah, of
talk
course.
about with you today about using creative, how the agents, I mean, most of the agents that we work with, they usually make about two or three times what they normally would make by just being able to use these different creative
Wow.
finance options.
No kidding, man. That's pretty exciting. And when the market's slowing down and it's doing it all over the country, I'm not 100% sure about Tampa, but I can tell you what, it's like I'm watching it in my market. Like
Yes.
I see it on, I got random Zillow alerts set up for me for a couple markets I, and, and I have a lot of rentals, man, and I feel like I'm watching the rental rates go down.
Yeah.
So anybody listen to this, if you want to really see what's going on in your market, start calling apartment complexes right now and asking how many vacancies they have.
Right.
And I guarantee it's going to be eye opening. There's one in I live in this area called Pawleys Island. It's just south of Myrtle Beach in the Myrtle Beach market. It's like a little bit higher end area. There's an apartment complex that 6 months. There's one big apartment complex here in this little area I'm in. 6 months ago, man, they had a waiting list. Today they have like 14 units that are empty.
Right.
And I scratch my head, and the reason they're empty, man, is because they're asking too much.
Right.
It's I mean pretty much location and then location, condition, and price are about the only three factors that really drive price and or drive sales. And definitely they have plenty of inventory, so it must be overpriced.
Right.
So tell us, so what are you doing with these agents? What exactly is going on, and how are they selling
Well,
this property creative financing? Like what
right.
kind of creative?
Well, with the market and the interest rates as they've went up, I mean, what are we dealing with now? 8% across the board, pretty much.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've heard
So,
eight and a half
yeah.
lenders
So
quotes in that range.
a lot of these buyers bought a house a year or 2 years ago, and they, fortunately, they got into a lower interest rate, probably around 3 or 4%, and
Oh yeah.
now they want to sell the property. But the problem is that the buying prospects are kind of, they're really, really tight. There's not as many because of the approval process. You think about it, you only been in a house maybe a year or 2 year, you didn't buy it down too much, and therefore your
Oh,
equity
yeah.
is very tight, especially if you did FHA or a VA, you didn't put much down. And so, you're trying to sell a house. And so these agents, especially the ones that are not as experienced, they'll take on a listing, just, and they're, let's just tell the truth. Most of the agent's strategy is a hope and a prayer. That
Oh yeah.
let's hope and pray that we can sell this, and we'll promise the world to the seller. But at the end of the day, then it ends up being an expired listing because they didn't sell it. Because at the end of the day, it's really
Well,
impossible to use traditional finance, conventional mortgage to do that, because you have to sell it at a price in order to, like I don't know about your market, Jason, but down here in Florida, closing costs is going to be about 10%, right?
yeah,
So
of course.
10%, if you got a $300,000 home, and you owe 290, you're going to have to pay, the seller's paying a check just to close that deal.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, real estate commissions. Let's just talk averages to here, man. The average is going to be 5-6%. Attorney fees. Typically, the buyer always asks for concessions here. It seems like, and then they got title search. They got mortgage insurance. They got yeah. So we're talking about to basically sell a house. It pretty much 10%.
Yeah. So let's
That's
be
time to figure
honest.
everything in.
What's the added, the strategy at that point is the agent will then try to convince the homeowner to rent out their house, And most homeowners don't want to be landlords, don't want to deal with that, don't want to deal with any of that. And of course, the agent will say, "Well, I'll take care of this, I'll take care of that." But we all know, I mean, unless you're taking on a big portfolio of rentals, one rental at a time here and there is really not going to make you a lot of bucks, and it's not
Oh
where
yeah.
the name of the game is. So, what happens is that the agent will let the listing expire, and the homeowner, unless they just hang on, is going to either hang on or let it go to foreclosure. That's what I'm seeing more and more of with this market that we're in, is that people are just letting things go because it's too much of a burden, because they tried to squeeze in a few properties when the interest rates were low, and the market was hot, and now they're stuck with not being
Yep.
able to move anything. So what I do is I come in and I say, "Hey, agent, if you have a buyer that didn't sell, I'm sorry, a seller that didn't sell their property, we can come in and we can do one or two things. Obviously, even if you have a high mortgage, low equity, I can actually assume the mortgage because I'm really buying the rate, and then
Yep.
we'll let you walk away with some cash in your pocket, the seller, and I'll even pay the agent their full commission. That way they can get rewarded for that, and also they're motivated to help us work the deal with the seller. And then I'll take over
Of
the
course.
mortgage with my partners, and we'll turn it into a creative rental, midterm rental, or some kind of co-share home. And we'll, as long as it cash flows, we'll just take over the mortgage. And people are doing that more and more now because there's really no other options.
Yeah. You know, man, it's funny the times that we're in. I remember this been like 20 years ago, man. When I first started real estate, I never started selling real estate to be a real estate agent, really. I've been a real estate agent about close to 20 years. I never really started to be a real estate agent. I started because I wanted to be an investor. I wanted to buy and sell and have rentals and develop stuff. And, I was never really like, hey, I really just love showing people properties and driving them in my car. It's never that, right? But there was one of these guys out here. I want to say it was Carlton Sheets, but one of these older guys that was an investment guru that
Yeah,
used to say, "You name this, I'll name the terms."
yeah,
And you know what, man? Over the years, dealing with inexperienced sellers and different stuff, dude, I've bought up with them with 0% interest sellers
yeah,
that have been happy to do that with me because they were getting 100% of their price.
right.
And a lot of these people out here buying. What a lot of agents don't realize, I've been around for a little while. The first thing we typically see, we'll see sales start slowing down a little bit, right? Days on market going up. Then we'll see rental rates go down, right? So all of a sudden, that person that was, cash flowing a property a few $100s a month, they were getting $2,000 a month rent with it, and now all of a sudden, market slowed down, interest rates have went up, but all of a sudden, rent they're getting $2,000 a month, they can only get 60.
Yeah,
And so all of a sudden, instead of them cash flowing $100 a month, right, giving cash $100
yeah,
pocket $100 a month, And and dude, it really what's going to be even more interesting, man. And I see this on the wall, and I know what's going to happen. Me and my ex-wife used to own a property management company. We managed about 450 units. And one of the more interesting things that happens when the market starts going down is you'll see homeowners that they're living in a house, right? They're living in a house in a neighborhood. They're paying, say, $2,000 a month on a payment, right? The air conditioner breaks. It's going to be a $5,000 bill. Instead of fixing their air conditioner and continuing to pay their $2,000 a month mortgage, they will walk away from that house and go rent the one 2 blocks away that's the exact same damn floor plan for 1,600 a month that they don't have to worry about the air conditioner.
yeah,
And
yeah,
man, I used to see that. This was back in like '08, '09, where you'd have a homeowner and they're like, yeah, uh, you'd look at their stuff to make sure they're not being evicted and all that stuff, right? Try to screen them. Look at the local municipality records, right? They don't have an eviction. They would straight up tell you they're walking away from a house back then. But then you would look at it and you go, well, you know what, man, this kind of makes sense. They've been paying $2,000 a month. They're going to rent this one from us for 1,500. Shit, let's do it, right? And
right.
man, agents have a lot of the agents working in today's market, and this is the interesting thing for you guys, and probably your biggest challenge. a lot of the agents in today's market have only worked in an up market
Yeah.
where they didn't have it, right? So that agent that you're talking about that's new, that listed that house, is literally doing whatever the seller wants. There's a couple of sad things happening here. Number one is they don't have the experience level to go out there and actually help the seller make important decisions for their house, right? Because they've never worked in a market that's changing. That's number one. And number two is they just don't have the skill set.
Yeah.
They just don't have the skill set. Number one, they're not seeing it coming. Dude, you look in these real estate groups right now, it's mind blowing to me to see how many agents literally have their head in the sand and they go, but we still got multiple offers on 123 Main Street. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, dude, but your average days on the markets went from 15 days to 45 days or 60 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you start looking at foreclosure lists like here, we're seeing them, the auction list go up.
Looks like you got muted there.
Maybe a year ago, they'd have like eight are going to auction. Now they've got 15, and people go, oh, well, it's only 15. No, man, it's a consistent 50-60% increase.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Um, it's not just five, it's 50%. And
Yeah,
then if it,
if I can, I had an agent call me this
yeah,
morning and said, "Hey, I talked to one of my sellers, and it sounds like unfortunately they've already started the foreclosure process." And I said, "Hey, that's actually perfect. I can help them get out of that foreclosure process, catch up their payments." So if anyone's listening to this, and you don't know what to do, and you think the foreclosure is kind of like the thing that ends the deal, it doesn't have to. So we can come in and we can literally catch up the payments and take over the mortgage, and they can walk away with a few bucks in their hand. The agent gets paid on the commission, and everybody solves a big problem, and then we take it on and try to cash flow it, and then it becomes our problem. So if people are facing probate or foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, they're getting a divorce, something's happened legally with them, maybe with their business, and they just need to get out of the property. Or even if they have, some equity, we can even do a hybrid deal where we sell or finance what their equity is, and we assume the rest of their mortgage. And that way everybody wins, and they don't have to be stuck with bad credit, and they don't have to worry about that coming down and waiting 7 years to get another property. And so right now the
oh yeah,
market shifting is literally, there's going to be more and more of these opportunities. So I just wanted to make sure agents know. Look, I even talked to an agent the other day, and Jason, they literally said, we're not allowed to do that type of financing because my broker is not sure about it. I'm like, well, we can train them up and let them know, that this is perfectly legal. IRS backs it up, gives you documentation. The VA literally tells you how you could do these type of transactions. And people, they're, well, what about if I have to, buy another house with, my debt to income will still show this mortgage. Actually, it won't. You just have to know how to put it together. We have a mortgage servicing company that will write a letter to the new loan company. That way your DTI will not be affected, and you could still buy another house because the income that's covering it. So there's a lot of solutions out there that people just don't know. And so I'm hoping to inform some people and let them know, look, you can sell more deals. You could probably, most agents can sell 2 or 3 extra deals a month by this understanding. So that's what I'm hoping to do.
so that's something. There's some you mentioned that's really interesting. A lot of agents don't know, and a lot of it's inexperience and never having gone through it. The deal ain't over just because you served foreclosure papers. That seller still owns the property and has the right to sell it. Literally, and I assume most of the people listening, most of us are in auction states. There's some that are a little different, but pretty much in the state of South Carolina, and I don't know a whole lot about states outside of South Carolina. I probably should put that disclaimer in here. But in the state of South Carolina, man, until the day of the auction, you still own that house.
Right. Same here in Florida.
So I mean, dude, I've had deals before. The house I actually live in, man, was an interesting deal. I'll tell you about it real quick. That was about 10 years ago, but it's still same laws and everything applies. Lady inherited this house from her mom. Her mom bought the house brand new back in the 70s. Lady inherits it. HOA is a little crazy high compared to local area. And man, just she was an elderly lady when she inherited it. She was handicapped, didn't have a big income, and man, when she got behind, she could just never get caught back up. So so it was going to foreclosure. And I actually bought the house I live in with creative financing. This is the story, man. It was literally going to foreclosure. I found the lady on Craigslist, right? Um, talked to him, talked to her son. Her son told me all the details about what happened. Uh, I literally took and showed up at the attorney's office the Thursday before the foreclosure was happening on Monday. On Thursday, I showed up with a check for the amount of the HOA fees that were behind. And I called her for HOA fees and stopped the foreclosure the Thursday before the auction. And we
Yes.
did an agreement that she would finance the rest to me. And get this, now this is the crazy thing. She agreed to finance the balance to me at 3% interest for 3 years for the balloon.
Wow.
And and literally now that's what she offered. You know what I mean? I didn't
Right.
try to be, I just accepted, dude. I was like, you know what, 3%, I don't have to. And here's the thing, I didn't have to pay origination with a mortgage company. I paid an attorney to draw up a document between us and we did a preliminary title search, right? I didn't even do title insurance, to be honest with you. There have been two people that owned it. There were no liens, there were no judgments that were attached to it. And I'm not telling everybody they should do that, but I rolled the dice and I bought the place without doing title insurance the
Yeah.
first time. Um, but they just done this with probate and stuff like a couple years in the past. And I mean, we did a preliminary title insurance search, showed no liens or judgments, man. And I dropped off a check and signed paperwork. And
Nice.
it was really that easy. The only problem I had, man, let me tell you about this and see what you guys think. Dude, so I bought it and then paid payments for 3 years. Well, the middle of that 3 years, market started picking up, right? So when it came time for that balloon to get paid off, I was just going to pay the balloon off with cash.
Hmm.
Lady pops up close and not wanting to close with me, not wanting to actually allow me to pay it off because now I'd paid 3 years of payments every month on time, everything just like I was supposed to. Lady pops up at the end. One of the neighbors had got in touch with her, and probably some real estate agents too, if I want to be honest. And house worth about 125,000 dollars more. Just dude, honest to God, I got lucky. When I bought the thing, it looked like 1971. It had sunshine yellow walls in it, right? Um, anyway, I got lucky, just caught things at the right time. Just as it went up 100 grand, it could have come down 100 grand, you know? Um, we get to closing. She wants some more money. I had to get my attorney involved. We fought about it a little bit, but she was in a precarious position because she couldn't really foreclose on me because I'd made all the payments on time and she couldn't really afford to not accept my down payment.
Yeah.
So,
Did you
but I had to
did you put the deed
get
in your name?
so I had done a land sales contract with it, so it didn't get deeded over until the end.
Yeah. Well, that would be why, if you would have deeded it in your name at the original closing, you wouldn't even she wouldn't have been able to do nothing.
Yep.
She could have complained, she could have cried, but unless you defaulted on the payments, the contract, the deed's in your name, and there's nothing she could have done about it. So I've had people call us after their house went up in value and say, "Hey, can you sell it back, or can I take back over the house?" And I'm like, there's only two ways you can get the house back. Number one is if you buy it back from me, or number two, I default on the payments, then you can assume back your mortgage. And so, the lady didn't want to buy it from me. She just wanted me to give it back. I was like, that's not how this works. The deed's in my name. It's contracted to me. The only thing that's not in my name is the mortgage, and we've been paying that on time. So that's what I would recommend if you ever do those deals, is to make sure the contract is ironclad and that the deed gets in your name.
Yep. That's what I should have done, man. I got a lot that about a year or so, a home lot I done with a guy where he'd owner financed to me. Well, I turned around and did a wrap. I pulled a mobile home out there, rented it for years, man. Mobile home, just it was an older mobile home anyway when it got pulled out there, and just over time, man, that thing got some not great tenants. It just got beat up. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
finally I said, you know what, man, I won't just owner finance the mobile home in the lot. Market's good, dude. A guy comes along, dude, and all and is willing to pay me significantly more than I paid for it. I mean, we're talking about I paid like 14,000 for the lot. The mobile home had been lived in for like 7 or 8 years, right? And just was rough. I mean, it was rough. And dude, the guy bought the mobile home and the lot for me. I owner financed it to him with him having the intentions of just doing away with the mobile home there and pulling a brand new double wide in. And when the guy I owner financed it from and had about 2 years left on the loan, when he just happened to see a brand new double wide coming in, that's probably 120, $130,000. This guy, I guess, dollar signs went up, and he either wanted me to sell him the lot back and let him rent the lot to the people with the double wide, or just sell him the lot back. Period. Right.
Yeah.
And with the double wide, and me moved double wide somewhere else. And but honestly, dude, I didn't want to, man. I want to say I'd paid him 12 grand for the lot, and I had like at the time had like $2,000 left maybe on the mortgage with him. And but I got a couple questions, man. Just questions I think that agents have, and I'm kind of curious myself.
Yeah.
Um, and so what about the due on sale clause?
Well,
What's in
that definitely can come up. It has before, but I will tell you the experience that I have. It usually only comes up with boutique banks, smaller banks, and
Yep.
then they still give you 90 days to take care of it. But the one time I've had it come up, I called the bank, and the bank literally told me what I could do to resolve it, which was really just transfer the deed back into the homeowner's name or the original homeowner's name, and then do a lease option. And that's what we did, and we resolved it. The other thing is just keep in mind, less than 1% do these deeds get, these dual on sales come be called, right? So there is
Yep.
very, very rare that it happens. Okay. But it can happen. So I'm not going to sit here and pull the wool over anyone's face, but usually it's a smaller bank that it may be called on. They don't have to, it's not an obligation, but they have the right to. Um,
Yeah,
that's
typically the bank just
usually
wants their
that's how
money.
we can resolve it. We can resolve it. We have 90 days once we get notice. And usually if it ever comes up, we'll call the bank and try to solve it. And a lot of the banks, they understand what happened as long as you explain it to them, and then they'll tell you your options, and we can solve it that way. So, but yeah, it's not big. It's not a big worry that people should have.
And so when you guys go through this and you buy a house from somebody, you assume the mortgage are due subject to, um, you guys take the deed in your name, and then you go ahead, just so agents listening to this understand, you guys go ahead and get an authorization letter together so you can talk to the bank and everything, right?
Yeah, if needed be, yeah. The bank really, and doesn't have to be notified. I mean, if the bank needs to be notified because of authorization reasons, that's fine. But most of the time, the transaction, as far as the deed's concerned, is transferred. We get logins to make the payments, and then we have our servicing company. And that's one thing that agents need to know. If you're dealing with a person, that's one thing. But if you're dealing with a real organization like we are, we have a servicing company that services the loan for us. So everything is documented. Everything, there's a receipt. Matter of fact, the original mortgage holder can get notified of every payment being made at the time of payment. And then, of course, if they ever run into wanting to get another mortgage, they won't have the DTI problem because the service company can provide, the payment and the track record, et cetera. So, anytime that this, transaction has happened, we just hand it over to our service company. They take care of everything, and it's a smooth transaction.
Dude, that's very awesome, man. That's very awesome. So your end goal with these things really is you guys are buying them with some sort of creative option, and then turn around and selling them with some sort of creative option, right?
Yeah. So here's a phrase that I learned a while ago that everybody should keep in mind. Value is not found in price. It's found in what you can do with it. Right.
Yes.
So price to us is not the highest priority. Now, price might be the highest priority for the seller, which is, good for us because we can pretty much work the deal and give them what they want and maybe even some more. But for us, it's obtaining the lower interest rate and getting getting control of a property that we can cash flow because we use a creative strategy. Like, a lot of Airbnbs are getting they're changing because they're not using as much anymore, but we have midterm rentals. We can use it for sober living. We can use it for assisting living. We can use it for co-living, basically rent out the rooms, dormitories. There's a lot of creative things you can do nowadays, even with a single family home. I mean, there's an app online called Neighbor App, and you can literally rent out your yard for storage. I mean, you could turn it into a cash flowing property just by using creativity. And I would say this: our first goal is not to sell it. Okay, our first goal is to cash flow it, and then second goal is to, at some point, as the market increases it and raises appreciation, we can refinance it. We usually typically going to hold on to the property for at least 5 to 7 years, right? So at some point that homeowner will fall off at that point when we either sell it or refinance it between that time period.
Man, that is very awesome. That's very cool what you guys are doing. There's a lot of opportunity in this market, and I keep telling agents that number one, your competition, a lot of your competition is just quitting.
Yeah.
Things slow down, a property ain't selling in 10 minutes. They think the market's bad or whatever it is. A lot of agent competition is just going to go away. And and that's one thing. Agents prospecting right now, man. I'll tell you this. I think this is interesting. I talk to a lot of agents, man. Nobody hardly is prospecting right now. And they don't understand. And by the way, anybody listen to this, I work a lot with Red X. I've done a lot of training with them. Anybody that's in my audience, if you tell them, hey, Jason Morris sent you with real estate agents that really work, they've got some special deals and they'll waive the $150 setup fee. So call them and tell them I sent you. But a lot of agents aren't understanding that expired data, man.
Yep.
And even the for sale owner data, you can take those phone numbers, those email addresses that you get from Red X, and you can run ads against them. You can do mail outs. You can do geographical farming using, basically social media ad targeting through Facebook. I mean, there's so many things you can do with that data right now. Plus, on top of it, you can make calls. You can send text messages. You got emails. You can send emails. I mean, you got 5, 6 different ways you could touch those sellers.
Yeah.
And if you're smart and you're going out there educating yourself on things like me and Frank are talking about, man, it opens a whole new world to you.
Yeah.
Um, Dude, I'll tell you what, man, it's been a while back. I I did a subject to the lady. She had a mobile home that was sitting in a park, and I already owned several of them in that park, and I just rent them out. And she come to me, and I'll be honest with you, man, she wanted like more like $18,000 for this mobile home. Well, it didn't have to be moved. Number one, lot rent was only $175 a month, and I knew I could rent this thing out for $1,000, $1,100 with no problems. And man, I took over her payment, and I'm paying lot rent, and my total monthly payment is 525 with this property, and I'm renting it for 1,100. And I'm
Nice.
renting to the same girl for 3 years. She's not going anywhere. And I've paid down the mortgage, I want to say from like 19,000 to like 14,000 or something like that.
Wow.
And and I mean right now,
Bless you.
sorry, sorry about that, but yeah, right now the thing is probably worth, I mean, on the low end it's worth 50, $60,000.
Yeah.
And and man, it's a deal. Honestly, man, if this tenant moved out, I would probably turn around and owner finance this thing for 60, 65,000 at like 10, 12% right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And I'd still cash flow. I'd still do anything, and I'd get rid of I wouldn't have to fix a leak under the sink, and I could get rid of those carry costs. And
Right.
I could get the lot rent. They'd be
Yeah.
paying the lot rent from there on out.
Jason, I'll tell
And
you right now, I want to give everybody who's listening, especially agents, a secret if you want to pull data, the hottest data right now that gets the most return, I mean, we're talking 1 out of 20 calls or conversations can turn into a deal. 1 out of 20. That's if you pull this type of data. Now, I want you guys to hear this clearly. Number one, pull expired listings. And number two, pull expired listings with either a VA or FHA loan attached to it. You'll always, almost always have small to little to no equity, which means they probably have a problem. They need this type of solution, a creative finance solution. If you were to pull a data sheet with those type of sellers, 1 out of 14, 1 out of 15, maybe even 1 out of 20 will be a potential deal that you can call someone like myself, or whoever, Jason, if you're doing it as well, and we can turn it into a deal for you. You get paid full commission. I mean, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not holding back anything. I'm not having you sign up for a course to find out what I'm telling you. I'm telling you straight and directly today. You can even hire a VA to do this for you if you don't want to do it. But I would say, look, get on the phone, pull that data sheet, text them, call them, Facebook them, and you're going to find a deal 1 out of 15 of these leads because these people need a solution. I'm telling you, they're going to let it go to foreclosure. They're going to just sit there and wait and wait and wait, and then they're going to put their head in the sand and they're going to ignore the problem, and then they're going to have no option but to let it go to foreclosure. But if you call them within the next couple weeks here, as people get more and more involved in it, they're gonna listen to you because they have to, and then you can call me and we can do the deal and you can get paid and everybody's happy. So if you pull that data, I'm telling you, Jason, those guys out there listening here, if you'll pull the data where expired listings, 30, 60, 90 days, and FHA and VA of those loans, it guarantee you 1 out of 15 will be a deal. Guarantee it.
Dude, that's unreal. Have you and it's just a question, we'll wrap up things here. Man, have you guys ever worked for not foreclosure leads? I'm sure you guys are already doing that, but have you ever worked eviction leads?
What do you mean by eviction leads? People that are on the land.
So I tell you this, and I mean, he's in my market, but it's so hard to get this data. Um, it's it doesn't matter. I've talked about it a dozen times. Man, there's a guy that wholesales in my market, right? And I used to do this years ago when I was actively prospecting, making calls. Is I would pay basically a virtual assistant to go through the court records and pull all of the eviction filings for me, right? And I would try to call the owner of the property. And there's really not been a service that's consistently been able to provide those leads. I've talked to Red X several times about it, and I've talked to other companies about like, hey, how can I get those leads and numbers pulled from a database for me, like on a consistent subscription basis? And there really isn't anybody. You got to literally, you got to work to get them, right? Um, unless there's something I don't know about. If there is, somebody reach out to me and tell me what that service is. Um, but man, there's a guy here doing this wholesales property, wholesales 2, 3, 4 deals a month. His business is 100% from a VA that he's got, that he pays the woman $100 a week. She's in the Philippines. She looks up the data. She puts together the postcards. He's got a prepaid card that she can use on one of these websites that send out the postcards, right? She logs in. She does the whole system for him. All of his lead generation is literally evictions.
Yeah.
And mail out postcards to eviction mail outs. And the guy does 3, 4 deals a month.
Wow.
While he's got another full-time job working somewhere else. And he's got like a pretty good job working somewhere else, man.
He's getting a hold of tired landlords, sounds like, right? People that probably
basically tired. Well, you know what? It's such an interesting time, man. I got this belief that most people out here never intended to be a landlord. They just got stuck with a house, right?
Right.
Inherited one, couldn't sell their old one, had to move for a job, couldn't sell their old one, ended up renting it, and 5 years down the road, they're still renting it, right? But COVID, man, crushed so many of these little landlords. Thank God for me personally. I really kept up to date on the COVID relief funding and stuff like that, and these little bailout programs. But I've seen some landlords in my area, like there was one not long ago that I ended up helping him sell them, but he had 11 properties, man, at 11 properties, he had 9 that had not paid him in a year.
Wow.
And the guy, I mean, you just look up upfit costs for that. You got 9 rentals, man. Even the lowest end of the thing, you're just painting basically. You're spending $1,000 a rental,
Right.
on the low end, you know. And this guy he was a tired landlord. But then I've ran into some other people. Like I got one right now that I'm working on buying this property from. They inherited it, and they inherited it. Mom died. Oh, some people like down the street or something knew her. They claimed to be related. They claimed they're cousins, right? They move in the house claiming that the mom said they could live there if something ever happens to her. Her family inherited it. They're across the country. They got these people literally they don't know that aren't really related to them living in the house. They're just claiming they're cousins.
Hmm.
And they can't sell it. They've had it listed with 3 or 4 realtors. The people in there straight up run off any buyers that
Mm.
would potentially buy it. And these people they're stuck with a little old mobile home on 6 acres out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
now for me,
Yeah.
for me, I can cut that 6 acres into 10 lots and have 10 lots for $25,000 a piece.
Yeah.
For
So if
them,
I ran into that deal, that would be fairly simple. I mean, I assume the property either by seller finance or mortgage takeover, and then I would just go to them and say, hey, look, you got 30 days to start paying rent, or we're going to start the eviction process. And so that's how that would be handled. And so they would either pay, which would give me a little more time to do what I got to do on the back end if I want to change the property to something else. But it'll be a month lease anyways, and they either
yeah.
start paying or they get evicted. That's how that would work.
So this is the offer I made, man. I'll tell you what I offered. I made him an offer, closing 30 days, and then giving me the right to go ahead and start the eviction process.
There you go.
And they're happy with that. I doubt the people living there are going to be happy, but so what?
Right.
They've been offered the property 3 or 4 times, and they want to, of course, give them like nothing for it.
Right.
They literally want to give them nothing. They want the super family. That's my brother, and I want him to live next door to me, kind of deal.
Right.
And it's really odd. There's a lot of funky stuff. I mean, there's some things we're gonna have to work through. Like, there's been 3 mobile homes in the same spot on the same piece of property that have burned.
Mm.
And there's some funky things that are kind of surrounding this piece of property. They think the neighbor's done, but I don't care about that. That has nothing to do with me. Um, we'll just insure it, and if the neighbors come burning, I guess we'll deal with that with the insurance company.
Right.
But anyway, I mean, there's no reason. A lot of agents out there listen to this, dude. There's no reason that I see agents that shy away from buying property like that, and investors shying away from investing in property like that because they go, oh, well, I don't want to deal with the headache of getting these people out, and then the people next door being upset or whatever. Dude, those people, I don't care about those people. If I don't buy it, somebody else will go buy it, and I'm getting a deal, dude. Um, but anyway, Frank, if anybody here has a property, what states are you buying in, or what areas are you buying
All the landlord friendly states.
in? How's it classified? Tell us real quick.
Yeah. I mean, mainly Florida, Texas, Arizona. I mean, a lot of the states, southern states, are pretty landlord friendly. There's a few maybe that are not, like Virginia and things like that. But I mean, for most part, we can buy anywhere because we can do virtual inspections and things like that, whatever we need to do. But if you have a property or you have something, I know this: agents have 2 or 3 properties sitting right now that they're not going to do nothing with because they don't have any ideas. But now you do. If it's going into foreclosure, if it's in probate, if they're behind on payments, if they just want to leave the property and just walk away, or even if they have some equity and they can't sell the property, we have solutions. We'll close fast. We'll do no contingencies. We'll pay the commission of the agents. We'll even give, in some cases, the owner, the seller, some money in their pocket, and we'll cover all the closing costs, and we'll take over the whole property. So if that's a solution for someone, give me a call, reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook, Frankie Ammons. You can go to my website, which is kingdomincomesystem.com. And I have a buyer's box there you can look at, or you can just ask me questions. Or if you want help doing these type of deals, maybe you're an investor, I'm willing to help people. So whatever it takes to help people progress and grow, man. Jason, I appreciate you letting me come on and talk to you.
Man, I really appreciate it. I think there's been a lot of information you've shared that I think is it's going to be this sort of stuff's going to be worth its weight in gold, man. It's going to be super valuable knowledge in the next few years, I believe.
Yes.
I think the way the market's going, that man, we're all gonna have to make that shift, and we're gonna have to acquire new skills, and we're gonna have to, you know, we're gonna have to learn some new things if we want to stay in the business. It's
Yes.
not all good times and up times, and for guys listening to it, if you're discouraged right now, dude, don't be. Right now is the best time to be in the business ever ever. It sucked the last 2 or 3 years for an agent or investor. There wasn't any deals, and the deals that were out there, there was another 10 different real estate agents going after it um, over normal. So, but I
Right.
appreciate it. If you guys hit the subscribe button, Frank, I'm gonna turn this off, man, and I appreciate you doing this with me today.
Yeah, man. No problem. Anytime.
Hey, man.